Hi, and welcome to a brand new video of the Target Individual Experience, the Target Individual Program. Uh, what you see here is an article um, of a young lady who was killed. Right now, I've talked about this before at the TI. Sometimes they will do certain things to make it seem as if, uh, as TIs, that you're psychic. Okay, and I don't want TIs to fall into that trick. Okay, because that's what it is. It's manipulation. Okay, because ultimately, these the architect of these programs, those within the security agencies within the United States government, those that are in the Congress, that are in the Senate, that are on the judicial, uh, that are in the judicial branches, as well as the criminal, uh, so-called justice system, right? White supremacists again, and the creation of technologies to control people, minds, to manipulate people, to brainwash people, basically, and to keep people in a certain negative condition, right? So I talked about this, I think, a few videos back, right? I don't exactly know which one. I talked about how all of a sudden my other niece, starts coming over, right? Her name is Michaela, and that when I go to pick up my son, there was this young woman who looked just like her, except she's a lot bigger in terms of size, but they look just alike. And so lately on my YouTube channel, right, this one for TIs, when I went on there, I started seeing all these videos about people that look alike but they're not related, right? And so I I forget I think I was maybe on Facebook, and this pops up. So I'm like looking at this, and I'm like, okay, let me read this because it sounds, I'm like, let me read this. Okay, so here's a young lady, right? This is a 22-year-old, popular 22-year-old FAMU grad student shot in a Tallahassee apartment complex. Grief the young woman's tragic death. Now, what is this young lady's name? Michaela. Okay, Michaela M.K. Bryant, who died after being hit by gunfire at the Providence Point apartment late Wednesday afternoon. She was taken to the local hospital where she succumbed to her injury later that night. Details around her death have not been released. Again, you know, I used to have those feelings, right, after things like this happen, because I used to feel like, well, maybe I'm psychic, maybe maybe that's the reason why they're targeting me. No, it is not that. What they're doing, again, this is a psychopathic program. The people who are behind these programs, they're psychopathic, they're sociopaths, they're the people that have the dark triad personalities, right? Dark triad personality types. So they position themselves in these positions of power, so they can play with our lives. They can manipulate us in any way. They can experiment on us using all different methods, and then they can use the state, right, to surveil, to watch. Well, same thing, right? To surveil us, to deny us opportunities, to basically keep us in a box, right? In a laboratory, a real world laboratory, in a sense of word, right? And this is what they're doing. So other instances that had happened before, for example, with my son, Ethan, and I did a video where I had to go to his school because of something that happened. And when I was sitting in the office, an Asian lady came in, and she sat down, and she's like, oh, she went and she's like, I'm here to pick up my son Ethan, who's in the seventh grade. Now my son Ethan is in the seventh grade too. So at the time, so I said to her, and you guys can go back and look at the video. I said to her, I said, your son named Ethan too? She was like, yeah. She's like, it's funny because they're both in the seventh grade, and I had to go pick up my son. She came in to see pick up her son. But again, it's not coincidence. And I said this. I said, this is not coincidence. this is what they are doing. See, the one thing about psychopaths and sociopaths is that they'll tell you what it is that they're doing to you, they're going to do to you, because particularly because they, the fear, okay, of you knowing that these people might kill you, they might dismember you, what have you, so, and they'll tell you this. They enjoy that, right? Because they enjoy destroying things, even if it's a human life. They enjoy that. They enjoy taking away that person's life, because it's to them, they feel like a god. It gives them power, right? Or at least they think they got power, right? So this is what's happening, right? So as a TI, when they tell you these things and they make it seem like you're psychic, no, you're not. You have to understand the architect of these programs. It's like AIs, right? But as a black person, the AIs are written by people who harbor bigoted, racist feelings and racist emotion, racist thoughts, bigoted thoughts, I should say, and use the system of racism to deny black people or other people of color and to subjugate them. Okay? So understand what's going on here as a TI. Another example, I remember a couple of years back when they had that earthquake in California, right? It's like I was sitting down and I just, all of a sudden I just started shaking, like my body started shaking, right? And this went on for about 2 or 3 days. Then all of a sudden there was an earthquake in California. Okay? So I'm just like, wait, am I, you know what I'm saying? Am I, but that's a thought that you would have in your mind. Remember, we're only human beings. A lot of things we don't understand. Okay? And a lot of times, because we're human beings, and we're also based on energy, right? Electrical signals, electrical impulses that we have. Okay? And so that in itself is in tune with the Earth's, electrical field, right? Because all living beings, operate on this electrical field. All living things, okay, including plants. This is why, if you put a plant in a window and you put it to the side of the window, eventually that plant will start growing to the side of where the sunlight is coming in, because that plant can actually sense that little bit of warmth from the sun rays, right? That energy. So it's going to tend and grow towards that side in which the window is at. So understanding these things. Now, you don't have to be an expert or technical, know a lot of technical aspect about these things. It's just basic understanding. And understanding how they've created technology, weapons for mind control and for behavior control, or whatever you want to call it, based off of these same electrical frequencies, right? So you talk about the electromagnetic spectrum. Some of these things they use for in the medical field for good, but remember, anything that they develop that is also used for good can also be weaponized and used for destruction. All right. So when we talk about directed energy weapons, mind control technology based on microwave and radio wave frequency spectrum, right? The signals. Okay, and you gotta just pick up, go read about the electrical impulses that happens in our brain, right? When we eat, when we touch things, when we feel things, there's an electrical signal, right, fired off by the neurons in our brain. And I talked about this so many times. Dr. Jose Delgado, Dr. Robert Heath, they've been doing this stuff since the 1950s, late 50s, well into up until today. And these are things that people just don't understand, because we're ignorant to these things, right? A lot of us have been conditioned to fear technology, to not understand technology. So when you look at the people who are creating these technologies, right, just look at who they are. It's particularly the military, right? Military governments, what have you. And yes, the private sector, but the private sector are getting funding from the military and from the governments. Why? Because the governments do not want to be held accountable for these sort of non-consensual experimentation. And we've seen we've seen it, we've read it on declassified documents about universities being involved with experimentations being backed by government agencies. You think this has changed? It hasn't changed. They just found ways to hide it. Okay? They just find ways to keep the victims quiet. So understand this. Okay, so like I said, I just had to do this video because, again, I just want TIs to understand this. The fact that when they're giving you subliminal message, because they want you to know what it is they're doing, because they think that no one is going to believe you. This is where the psychiatric diagnosis comes from, right? It is being used so that no one is going to believe you. See, this is why I document a lot, because again, showing these things, speaking about it, and watching these things play out, right? And it is not, like I said, they will use religion, because religion is a powerful tool of indoctrination. It is a powerful tool to bind one mind into a certain way of thinking, into a narrow way of thinking. And I keep saying this, right? They don't want people in society who question things, right? Who rally against the state or the government that has been treating its people unjustly and unkindly. And if they can get the majority of the population to treat each other the same way, unjustly and unkindly, then they can do whatever they want. This is why I study history as well as psychology, because the two goes hand in hand. The manipulation of society by those in power, the manipulation of individuals for nefarious reasons, the creation of chaos for the simple goal of profiting and being in control. So you got to understand what's happening. Okay? So I just want to do a quick video on this, because again, it's sad how these things happen. People would just do this to anyone. So you got to understand, like I said, what's being done. You're not psychic in any way, so don't believe in that bullshit. Okay? And I'm not saying people can't have an experience which would be, I wouldn't say impossible, because again, our minds are, remember, we're only using 10% of our mind, all right? So if there are people out there who can use more, what have you, or people out there who may be super in tune with the energy around them, I understand that. There are a lot of things that we still cannot explain. But understand this: if you are targeted individuals and they're sending you these type of subliminal message, you're not psychic. Okay, they're just toying with you. They want you to talk about these things, and then when these things like this happen, no one's going to believe you. No one's going to believe you. But like I said, I don't believe in coincidence. Okay, I don't. I used to, because when you're blinded, you tend to want to believe in this stuff. But understand that there are people out there, millions of them, tens of millions of them, who are so heavily indoctrinated, who are so heavily brainwashed, that they will do whatever to an individual if those in the authoritative position tell them that they can do exactly what it is that they want to do and not have any repercussion and not feel any guilt about doing it. And this is how our perpetrators think. This is what they believe, because that's what they've been told. Okay? So I'll see you guys in the next video.